Have you ever been shocked that your credit card statement was much higher than you were expecting? Well, this happened to me in February 2023. Now, I was expecting my credit card statement to be around £400. Instead, I was pretty surprised to see charges totaling over £1,200. And as the difference was pretty substantial, I logged into my bank account and checked my statement. Now, this is when I noticed at the top of the list, I saw a charge of $900 that had come from Google Cloud. Now, baffled, I logged into my GCP account and tried to figure out what the charge was related to. Now, quickly, I got that sinking feeling of dread when I realized it was my monthly service fee. So I had built a small POC website that I'd built about 6 months ago that used the Google Location API. Now, this website went from having a service fee of nothing for all these months to over £2,000 in charges in under a month. Now, obviously, I quickly got in contact with Google, which was way harder than you would expect, deleted all my public-facing API keys, and then kickstarted the process of trying to get a refund. Now, for many developers who have bills to pay, getting an unexpected bill out of nowhere over £1,000 might mean that you fail to pay the rent, bills don't get paid, or you get charged unexpected fees for failed direct debits. Now, aside from the unexpected financial impact, how would you feel about paying over £2,000 for a service you haven't used? This is why, within this video, I'm going to be discussing a seldom talked about topic, which is the real risks of using a cloud service provider to power your personal hobby projects. Now, by the end of the video, you will know all about the potential risks and what you can do to secure yourself incurring fees like mine. And stick around to the end of the video to see if Google rinsed my wallet or not. As soon as you register a credit card or a debit card with a provider, things can get ugly quickly. Now, GCP won't even allow you to create an account unless you register an associated credit card. There's basically no out-of-the-box guardrails or alerts that will prevent you falling into a similar trap as me. Now, even if you think your app will never be used by anyone, as soon as the provider has your billing details, you are liable for misuse. Now, in my situation, I had a site that I hadn't touched in over 6 months that never accrued any fees whatsoever. And within less than 4 weeks, I had a bill of over £1,600 UK, which translate to over $2,000. Now, these risks are real, regardless if you're an individual or a company. For example, only yesterday, GitHub accidentally published their private RSA SSH key on a public GitHub repository, meaning they had to regenerate everything. Now, the difference when you're an individual is that you'll be liable for any misuse. So let's see what we can do to cover your back. Now, what I'm going to do for the remainder of this video is look at tools and alerts that you can enable to prevent the chance of you getting stung with these unwanted fees yourselves. And the first point to talk about is your API keys. The most common mistake that you can make that can result in your service being hacked or compromised is accidentally exposing your API key to the public. Now, when you're working on your own code, it is very easy to forget to include files within a git ignore, or maybe forget to delete that hard-coded key that you created basically to get something up and running very quickly. Now, your service account keys are in essence passwords, and you need to treat them as very sensitive data. So in essence, if a hacker ever managed to get access to that secure key, they can basically start using your service wherever and expect that your consumption will be rinsed, and in essence, you are going to be screwed. Now, it would be very easy for me to sit here and simply say, you should write secure code. However, when you work on a hobby project, it's very easy for mistakes to happen. Now, when you're working on code in a workplace, when you check in your code, it will likely be reviewed by some of your peers. However, when you're working on a hobby project, it's likely that you're the only person working on that code. So in these situations, it's really easy to forget to include a git ignore or accidentally commit a hard-coded API key that you're planning on refactoring later, but forgot why you got caught up in the moment. Now, in a lot of instances, it's only when your API key is hacked that you realize that you made a mistake in the first place. Now, this is why whenever you work on your own hobby project, it's even more important that you enable some form of automated code review or code analysis tool on your repository from day one. When it comes to picking a great security analysis tool, then obviously the Git provider you use will pretty much limit what options you have at your fingertips. Now, because I use GitHub, I'm going to quickly show you how to set up some security analysis in GitHub for free. Now, the tool we're going to be using is called Dependabot. And the reason why I like Dependabot is it's free and it pretty much comes out the box with GitHub. So in order to get going with Dependabot, basically log into your Git. Then from your profile bit here, basically go to settings. Now from settings, scroll down and on the left hand side, you can see a tab which is called Code Security and Analyses. Now clicking on this, scroll down, you can see that we have Dependabot. Now Dependabot basically has two options. First, we have alerts. So alerts are basically going to send you an email if you accidentally, upload one of your private keys. Now, as I'm hoping you can see, by enabling Dependabot, you shouldn't get those accidental check-ins of your API keys, and this should make your process much more secure so your service account is less likely to be hacked. Now, when setting up a service like Google Location, where applicable, always lock your API key down as much as possible, explicitly to domain or IP address level. Whenever you need to create a secret access key, like the one that I used for Google Location, you should always, without fail, restrict what that key can use. Now, if you have reached this far in the video, then you will know and appreciate that I don't always follow my own advice. However, I am proof of what happens if you do not follow this rule. So, out of the box, Google allows you to restrict your services either to a specific platform like Android or iOS, or to a specific site using something like an IP address or a domain. Now, on certain keys, you can also apply additional API restrictions, so certain APIs or SDKs can only work within a certain context. The next tip is an obvious one. However, I personally seldom do this. It's very easy to overlook, and as you can see in my situation, it can cost you a boat ton of money. And that is delete any API keys that you're no longer using and turn off any services that you no longer care about. Now, obviously, turning off resources that you don't want to use anymore is key. Now, unfortunately, if I'm honest, trying to figure out how to shut down one of your existing resources is a little bit complicated. Now, you can't do it from the billing portal itself. Instead, you need to go over to this IAM and admin. So you can see here, it's just IAM-admin/settings. Now, this should get you to this page. So basically, you want to come here, and in the top, you can see that we have this shut down. Clicking on this, you then need to type in the name of your project, and you can disable your service. Now, you want to do this for any project you're not using anymore. Why risk being charged for something that you're not going to use? Turn it off. A great way of defending against unwanted bills is to understand how you're getting billed on a daily basis. Now, GCP has a useful feature called budgets, and this will allow you to set up an alert whenever you go over some sort of usage cap. So let's see how we can set this up. We're now inside my Google billing platform. And straight away from the homepage, you can see where this hack's come from. You can see that, no usage, then £700 out of the blue. Now, in my instance, it would have been much easier if I actually had an alert. Now, you would have thought this would have come by default. You get it with your email, Gmail. However, this isn't the case with GCP. So with GCP, you basically need to set up a budget. And when your budget gets triggered, you'll then get an alert. So we can do this from this little tab here. Now, one thing to note is setting up a budget does not actually stop you getting charged anything. All it's going to do is just set up an alert. Now we can create a new budget from this button right at the top. From here, we can give it a name. We can give it a time range. So I recommend monthly. Clicking on next here, we can then set the budget amount. So let's say if it goes over £25, we're then going to get an alert. Clicking on next, you can see that we have some percentiles, so 50%, 90%. We can add some extra triggers if we need to. Then if we do a finish, we can see that we're now going to get an alert whenever this £25 usage comes in. So my recommendation is whenever you're using GCP, make sure you set one of these things up. Otherwise, like me, you might get this £720 bill out of the blue. Initially, I definitely struggled to find out how to raise a support ticket with Google about misuse. Like most services, they purposely hide these instructions to discourage people from accessing it. Luckily, after I figured out how to get through, the team at the billing center were pretty good. People got back to me via email pretty quickly, and everyone was friendly and reassuring. So if you find yourself in a similar situation as mine, reach out to the billing team to ask for help. I have to admit, I did struggle to figure out how to actually talk to someone on GCP. It took me about an hour. Now, one of the problems is that at the top here, you can see that we've got the support option and we get talk to live and self-service support. So we click on this, we get this page. Now I want to get started with basic support. Now, if I scroll down, click on the big button, you can guess what happens now is I get redirected to the same page. Then that page is then going to say, get started with basic support. I've got some links here. I've got no options to actually talk to someone. Now, it basically took me a little bit of Googling, but eventually I found out that, from this chat support here, you can actually start talking to someone. Now, because I've opened some tickets, this has actually got information in it, which I didn't have before. You can see here that I can get billing support. Now, from the billing support here, you can see that I've got the automated billing support. And then I can go in, I can say what account I want to talk about, and then I'm still actually in an automated assistant. So now I can say, do I have a technical product issue? Then I've got some links, then I've got some other links, but there's no real easy way to actually figure out how to talk to someone. Now, what I had to do in the end is pretty much just go through this process, and eventually you can actually get through to talk to someone. However, it's not the most intuitive thing because you can have to go through, go back, basically go round in circles, but eventually you can find the option where it will say, I'm going to put you through to an advisor. And once you do that, things get a little bit easier because I have to say the advisors and all the support I got was really, really good. So let's quickly talk about the refund process. So for people who have found themselves in this situation, do not immediately panic. The good news is that I got a complete refund for all my fees related to this unused usage back from Google. Now, the caveat made clear by the Google support team is that this was a one-time get out of jail free card only. Now, in order to dispute the usage, I had to open up a claim. I needed to provide my credit card bill. I deleted the API key that was being misused immediately. I had to provide the URL of the website that had the issue, and I also had to provide a link to my GitHub repo so they could look at the code. So I'd say the process took about 7 to 8 email exchanges. Throughout the process, I kept reiterating that the site was a hobby project and it was used in a non-commercial setting. My website URL even had the words Optimizely demo in it, which helped prove my case. Now, if you're going through a similar process, be professional. Emphasize the intention of your site, how you think it was misused, and the steps you took to resolve the issue yourself. Now, if this is a genuine case of misuse, you'll have a good chance Google will help you. However, having to wait 2 weeks to figure out if you need to pay an unexpected £2,000 in fees is not fun. Now, we've reached that time in the video where it's time for me to say, click on the subscribe button if you want to keep up to date with my channel. Also, please help me out with that magic YouTube algorithm. Clicking on help helps me grow this channel. It takes a lot of time and resource, so I would appreciate it because sometimes I wonder why I should carry on with this channel. Now, if you are interested in learning more about the safe way to host your Next.js website in the cloud, I've created a video which is called Netlify versus Vercel versus GitHub Pages. So this video will teach you the best hosting provider for Next.js. If you're interested in that, click on the link that you see on screen right now. Otherwise, I hope you're having a fantastic time wherever you are in the world right now. And until next Sunday, happy coding.